ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the kamikaze?
Shoot. Let me just talk about something that I was meditating on the other day in the shower. The shower is where I do all my meditation. That's where it goes down. I go time traveling in my mind, and it's a very therapeutic time, and it's also time to get the funk off your body. So I came up with this theory. Tell me if you agree or disagree. I know why people dislike the Star Wars prequels and the Star Wars sequels.
Oh, you're hitting me with a curveball here.
Oh, yeah. You weren't ready for this jelly. All right.
No, man. I thought we were having nothing but really, really heavy discussions, and now you're going to hit me with Star. What was the question again?
Oh, I haven't even hit you with a question. I'm just going to tell you my theory of why the sequels and the prequels are hated. And you tell me if you agree or disagree, all right? So the originals...
Okay, sure. Let's hear it.
All right, bet. So the originals had heart, soul, and brain. Three good things that you need with storytelling. Heart, soul, and brain. The prequels had brain because it followed a chronological story, kind of like the originals did, and it had a heart because you felt for these characters. You liked these characters, and you were genuinely trying to see where it was leading to, as in connection to the originals. It didn't have soul though. You know, sometimes when I watch the sequels or the prequels did not have soul, man. Sometimes I watch that shit and I am bored, bro. And I'm just like, let's move on to the next thing. Like, what is this dialogue all about? It's all politics, and that's where the soul was kind of taken out, unlike the originals where it did have a little bit of soul. And which brings me to the sequels. The sequels had heart. Because, you know, it was that little engine that could. It had a good start, and it was a lot. We were following it. We were like, okay, these characters are great, and they seem like they genuinely want to be here. So that's heart, and it had soul because we were we were invested. And what was I saying about soul? And you could feel that the characters genuinely wanted to be there. But the thing that was missing was brain because the story was fucking everywhere. It didn't follow chronological order like the original two did, and there was no guidance, as we all know with the Disney situation. So I think, yeah, the original had all three, but the other two were just missing one thing. What do you think?
I think that you came up with that.
I did in the shower. I did. That's where it goes
really
down, bro.
good. Oh yeah. When you were meditating down the drain or whatever you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fucking fantastic, dude. That's a really good way of putting that. I've never thought of it in those terms, but you know, I feel like there was a little bit of brains involved in the sequel trilogy, but by the end of it,
okay, I can see what you're saying. Like in the beginning, there probably was some brains.
Its way.
Say what?
Yeah, well, and it felt like that they had an idea or a destination in mind.
Yeah.
And then they just abandoned ship at some point. So yeah, I definitely think that's a good point. It's interesting also to feel like people are really coming around on the prequels. This is something that I've seen. I think it's a generational thing, and within the past 5 years, people have really started to soften their position on this.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, like politics or anything that's controversial. I feel like when you dislike something so much, like, not me though, I don't hate or dislike the sequels as much as a lot of other people, but I feel like when you're disgusted with something and it takes you back to something that you previously hated, you're like, okay, how does this compare to my dislike? Oh, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Yeah. And I never thought the prequels were as bad as people thought them. I don't think Star Wars is as bad as some people think it is, tell you the truth. I think a lot of people are just fucking man babies. But if I was to choose between the sequels and the prequels, honestly, man, I like the characters of the sequels better, but I think I like the story of the prequels better.
Oh. Wow. I can 100% agree with what you're saying. But does that mean you're taking the prequels over the sequels?
As a story, I might have to, man. And I was hoping I would have had my mind changed with The Rise of Skywalker because I was really rooting for him, seriously. But that right there just threw it all down for me.
Nah, man. I know that Ewan McGregor is fantastic as
Absolutely.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is the single saving grace of the prequel trilogy, if you ask me. That's
Oh,
just kind of my take on it.
hands
But you
down.
said it, dude. The characters are actually really likable in the sequels,
Yeah.
and the special effects feel more like a mesh of the two of them, where like prequel era stuff is so CGI heavy.
Yeah.
That said, though, man, I agree with you. I feel like people don't give Star Wars or George Lucas enough credit for all of the kind of like people like to rag on the political stuff, but he was actually like
Yeah.
trying to do something with it that was interesting, and people wanted more space fantasy and less space bureaucracy, and I understand, but like I'm imagining some Star Trek fans were like really digging all of that stuff in the Phantom Menace.
No, I understand what you're saying too, and like I said, some of it at times came boring, for a younger me. But no, I get what you're saying too. Like some of it was necessary so you can understand the overall logic of this universe. Real quick question, man. Whose vision would you have liked to see of the sequels? George Lucas's vision for all three movies, J.J. Abrams for all three movies, or Rian Johnson for all three movies? Who do you think would have made the better trilogy if they were involved in all three of those movies?
I love this question. I love this question. I think that you can go in so many different and valid directions with this
Right.
question. I feel like the person who I take off the table right off the bat is George Lucas.
Ooh, people gonna be mad at that one.
We saw his vision. Nah, but in my justification is he had a run at it for quite a while. Time to pass the baton off to somebody else. Let's see what somebody else can bring to the table. I feel like J.J. Abrams was going to be the guy that was going to set it up perfectly and then drop the ball at the end, and that's ultimately what we got.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson, I feel like, would have constantly just done the thing that was the not expected thing, and it would have made for an interesting movie, or an interesting series, but I don't know that it would have made for a great fan experience.
Right.
Judging by the way that a lot of fucking people reacted to The Last Jedi. So, I mean, the safe answer is J.J. Abrams. My personal preference would be Rian Johnson.
Okay, so I'm gonna slightly agree with you. A little bit disagree. I think 100% I would definitely agree with you on the George Lucas thing. I was like, you know what, and it sucks to say because this is his baby, this is creation, but at the same time, we saw with the prequels, like, okay, this might not be what we want to see, even though it's your stuff. It's hard to tell somebody, hey, your vision sucks when you're the creator of it. But
even though it's your vision,
exactly. It's kind of a douchey thing to say. So, but if I'm gonna be real with you, I would have probably wanted to see a different vision of it. I'm gonna say this: I think J.J. Abrams had a great start, and I agree with you too. Like he probably would have fumbled it at the end because he's not really the best. Like he's great with character development and he's great starting a story, but he doesn't have a great track record of ending a story.
No, like almost never has he given us a really satisfying ending to any of his series, and he's done some exceptional shit.
No, absolutely. He's a great creator in general, man. And he's got a good vision. But I probably would have went with Rian Johnson all three, and here's why. As much as I did like Force Awakens, I think if Rian Johnson would have did The Force Awakens and then all three of them, it probably would have made more sense. And it probably would have dug deeper. Like, I like how he dug deeper into what the Force actually is. I like how he was trying to explain, like, the light and dark side and the struggle and the fight between family. I wasn't a big fan of him killing off Luke so early. And that pointless scene where he did the casino planet. But other than that, man, like, I do think his vision, if it's stretched out a little bit more and a little bit more context to it, probably would have been, like, groundbreaking Star Wars stuff, like how we're seeing with The Mandalorian, seeing stuff we've never seen before in Star Wars. I think he would have dug deeper into, like, things we've never seen, as opposed to J.J. Abrams taking that safe route, like, okay, this is the Star Wars we all know and love. I'll just make the effects better, but we're going to just do the same beats like George Lucas would do. So that's just my thing on that.
Yeah.
Help keep your brother out the streets. Subscribe to my dad's YouTube channel. Love, peace, and chicken grease.